Okay, so now we're going to head into the last part of the SAS training, which is for statistical analysis. So we're going to start with the descriptives. So basically, the descriptives are usually that like you're going to report the means and medians and the number of the frequencies, the percentage, stuff like that. So let's see that in this case, what kind of analysis we can make from it. So for example, we have the covariates like age, and we want to report the mean and median of age, but this time we're gonna group that by cancer group, yes or no. So to do so, we can use the proc means, um, and so these are as we said, these are the statistics that you want to have, like MS, mean, standard deviation, median, whatever, right? So that specifically that M way means that you don't have to report all level, just go to the lowest level and report the smallest cell. Okay, so and then we're going to have a class with this one, which means that we're going to group that by class, by cancer, whether or not a patient has cancer. And also we're going to group that by, so for the mean, we're gonna calculate the mean of age, right? So, and this one is new, is that we're going to create an output data set from this procedure. And that output data set is gonna contain the number of observations, the mean, standard deviation, median, and so on and so forth. So let's just run this. In the result area, you can see the statistics, like the numbers, the number missing, mean, whatever. And because we have an output, and the same data is going to be saved in an output data set, right? So the next thing is that it is always a good practice to in this output data set that we're going to clean it up. For example, we don't need this type, this frequency, we don't need these columns. And the other is that we're going to add some project related stems. Now I commented the three lines, but this is because it does not apply in SAS University edition. But later in your reanalysis using SAS, especially you're using SAS Enterprise Guide, and then these three lines are very useful. The first is going to tell you where is this project. It's going to have the path of this project. The second is going to have the project name. For example, like in my case, using Enterprise Guide, indeed I have a program here, and the program is called the Teaching 2019 September 16. This is the one I made at the time. So that name will be saved here. And then you're going to have the program names. Like for this one, it is the program called EA Descriptive. So that program name will be there. So with all of these, I call this stamps. With the stamps, then you will know that each time running these data sets and you have the output. This output is by which project file, which program file, on what date. You will have all of these information in your data set. But this time, because we're using this free university version, we cannot have all of these variables. Let's just put one stamp, which is the date. So I'm going to put a date by the end of this data set, which is created by today by the state. Okay, so the next one is that with this data set, we can directly export that into an Excel file. So here's the thing, just like we used to import the data set, it's very simple. You just have proc export data, and then DBMS again, it is to tell SAS the type. The replace is to replace the existing reports and to put in this Excel file to put the results in the sheet called means. So let's just do it. Okay, and it's down in the log file. It says that the export file has already been put into this file. Okay, so now we cannot open it in SAS, but outside we can open the data set and check it out. So this is the file in my local folder, the folder I assigned for the SAS University edition, and I have this file. And remember that previously I just used SAS code. I never uh, manually created this file. So this one is automatically created by SAS, but in Excel format. And inside you have exactly the same ones, and it also have a stamp here telling you when the data was created. Okay, so that is for the uh, for the one of the descriptives, which is calculating the means, the median, standard deviation. So this is the first part. The next is that we're gonna see how to report the frequencies. All right. So the frequency, for example, we're gonna report the number of observations by age group. All right. So to make the age group, we're gonna have a statement called select when. All right. So the select when is works like this. So you have to have a select and an end. All right. So in between, you're gonna have a bunch of conditions. You have, for example, between 0 and 45, then you're going to assign it to group A, and then 45 to 65, group B, and so on and so forth. And it's very important that I think it is forced that you have to have an otherwise, because this is just to close the loophole. So I think in SAS it is mandatory that you have to have this otherwise statement. You know what? Actually, it is not. So even if you don't have this otherwise, it sounds like it works here. So let's test it again. This time I just take out this, and now we have a problem, and it's going to report error. So basically, it says that, well, your conditions are not complete. So you tell me that for those between 0 and 45, I'm going to do this. 45 to 65, I'm going to do this. 65 to 70, I'm going to do this. But what should I do for those people above 70? What should I do? Right? Um, so that's why you said that unsatisfied, all right? That's why you have to have an otherwise. And usually in the otherwise, I'm gonna say like if it is a numerical, I'm gonna put in a 9, or if it is character, I'm gonna put in an error. It's just to remind myself that that grouping has some problems because some other people are putting the wrong group, right? So we should call this back. We should always have an otherwise group, right? Okay, so the other thing is that you can notice that even without this otherwise group, actually, if you check my conditions here, per se, it is not complete because it never mentioned anything below 0. right? So why that one is allowed? Well, it's not because the SAS is good enough to recognize, oh, it is about age. Age cannot be negative. No, it is because in the data, I don't have any value um, which is below zero, right? So if so, had I had any value below zero, and I didn't have this otherwise statement, so it will report error as well, right? So the key is that it's going to check all the values and see if all the values fall into at least one of the category. If not, it's going to tell you that, well, you have a problem and you have to do it over again. But anyway, it is a good practice to have this otherwise statement. All right, so this one is very useful. It helps you to make this groups, right? So so there are other ways to make groups. For example, actually you don't even have to use this. You can use a trick called format, proc format. And basically you don't touch the original data, you just change the format. And later you're going to use that format to, it sounds like it acts like a nickname to do the groupings and do the reports. So that is also doable. So if you are interested in that, you can Google it and find a way to do it. All right, so the next is that we're going to report these groups by the cancer group. So eventually I want to have a descriptive table like this. So I'm going to have those age groups. I also want to have those sex groups, right? And then I'm going to count the number of patients by cancer equals to 1 or 0. So I'm going to have two groups for each age level and for each sex group. So not only I'm going to have the number of patients or number of observations, I'm also going to have the percentage. So, for example, in age group one, which I think it is below 40, so below 45. So we'll see how is the percentage of patients fall into this group, right? So this is vertical. So if you add these four groups together, it will be 100%. This will, if you add these four groups together, it will be 100%. So that is, so that way we can compare that side by side to see that within those having cancer or not having cancer groups, how is the distribution of that? Is that comparable or not? In this case, it sounds like it's not so comparable, right? So, so that is why we're gonna make that. So this kind of frequency report is also frequently adopted in your research in the result part. So that's why I need to have this result. Well, so to produce this result, there's a lot of ways. So one of the way is do that through a program called Proctabulate. So actually, Tabulate is quite flexible, but it is also very complicated, right? So if you want to know the details of that, you can go to these references, but I'm just gonna um, take some steps to start from a very simple approach to eventually to I would say, a little bit complicated way of making that final report, which is in this part. Right. So I'm going to start with the very simple way to explain the principles of making this, of using this proctabulate. So the first one is that I'm just going to create two very simple table, very simple two. two very simple elements, which is the age group and cancer group. All right, so I'm gonna put it there. So to do so, I'm just gonna use the original data, the source data, and then I would say that I want to have two class groups. One is age group, one is cancer. And then I'm gonna have the table. So we can say tables or tables, the same here. And then you're gonna split these variables by a comma. All right. So the first one will be for the rows, for the row, and the second will be for the column. So by running that, you can see that we're going to have a table. So the rows will be the age group, and the columns will be whether or not having cancer, right? So so the rows goes first, and then the columns goes second. So this is the simplest way, and that one is going to bring us the number of observations per cell, right? So like in this case. Okay, so this is the simplest one. And then I'm gonna add a little bit into it. So remember, this is kind of the same trick, very similar to the ones we played. Remember that earlier we have another video about using tablet to tell us the days, you know, the earliest, the minimum days, the maximum days, or the earliest or latest the dates using the template, using the proc tablet, because uh, it can format number. So this one is similar. So here, so we're going to have more. So we're going to have a class, which is the age. We're also going to class the cancer. But this time we're going to apply an option to say that for this cancer, uh, we're going to do it descendingly. So which means that in the two columns, we're going to have the patient with cancer first, which is the one, and then the patients are cancer free, which is a zero, right? And in the tables, we're going to have one more rows, and in this rows, we're going to have age group, and also we're going to have an age group by the percentage. So this is the way to tell this tablet to have a percentage, uh, but the percentage will be vertically by age groups, right? So let's see what it's gonna give us. All right, so this is the one that is gonna create it. It's gonna have an age group, and then it's gonna have a percentage of that. But is this what we want? Not really, because you want to put it side by side with the numbers, but not to create another four rows, right? Okay, so let's keep trying. So this time we're gonna have the first two are the same, but for the tables, we're gonna have the rows of age group only. But for the columns, I'm gonna have two columns. One is whether or not having cancer. The other is about a percentage, all right, about those people by those cancer groups. And this time, um, so again, is the percentage is about the rows. I'm gonna try that. Yeah, so this one is quite close to what we want to have. Is that we have the cancer group, we have 1 and 0, we have the number of patients there, or number of observations, and then we have the percentage, right? So this is kind of what we want, but this one is only for the age group. So now the next one is that we're gonna add in total for rows and columns, right? So this time, a part of the existing ones, we're gonna have the totals here. Uh, so let's try. Yeah. So now, so not only that we have this four rows, we also have a total. and that total will be 100%, right? Okay, so well, the problem about this table is that it has too many labels here. So let's see that if we can suppress some of the labels. So to suppress the labels, so we're going to specify that for the cancer, we're going to take it out. For the all, we're going to have a different name for that. All right. So this is the way to make a customized labels, where in other words, if you put nothing there, it's going to customize the labels. Well, it's a bit better, right? It does not solve all the problems, but well, it is better. Well, well, uh, if you would agree, well, I'm gonna say that maybe it is better. Okay, so the next is that we're gonna add another role, which is the sex group. So this time I just insert another group here, and then I'm gonna run that again. You see that this time I have the sex group here, and in the end I still have this row total, and also I have this column total. Right? This one is very much the same like what I show you in the beginning. All right, so with all of this, that's the best I can do for this table. And the next one is that actually I can export this tablet instead of putting it in the result area. I can directly export that report into an Excel file. So all I need to do is have this statement is to say ODS into an Excel, and this is the file name. Remember, we already have the file name defined in the previous rows. And then we have an option, and the option says that put the result into this sheet. The sheet is called the table, right? So, and then I'm going to do the normal stuff, which are the same statements I have for this proc statement. Basically the same thing here. So, and eventually, after the exporting to Excel, I'm going to close this Excel. So I'm going to say ODS close. So which means that for the rest of the results is going to report to, it is going to output to the results instead of to the Excel file. So I'm going to run this part, and yeah, it produced that in the result as well, but in the descriptive file, we have that result. So I have the Excel file here, and then I'm going to open it. Well, see, the table is here. It is exactly the same as in this report result area, right? So this is in Excel report. It's even the same format and the same layout. Yeah. But wait a minute. So remember that in this descriptive file, previously I've put in a table called the means. So where is that table? All right, so that's the problem about this ODS output, because it is going to overwrite everything you have in that Excel file. So actually, it is going to uh, delete the previous file and replace the result from this ODS output as the new contents for that report. All right, so this kind of order really matters, right? So if you want to use this ODS output to Excel, it's better that you do it first and then run uh, the proc export to export to have all of the to keep all the reports. Otherwise, if you make other reports first, and you and do this ODS as the last step. You're going to overwrite all the previous reports. So I'm going to pause here. All right. So, and let's look at this tablet report. All right. So, well, yeah, it sounds like it's kind of useful because it reports the number of cases or observations per group. It also can split by the columns, the rows and columns, and also it reports the percentage. But look at the layout. So we've been through a bunch of steps, and to look at the code that you can have for this tablet, it is quite well. Actually, it is quite strange, and it's not so if it, and it is not so straightforward. In some of the settings, like this part, like this and this, it sounds very, very strange. I would say very awkward to me, right? And even that I tried that much with this, I still get a quite crappy report. I would say the format is really not what I want. I'd rather to have like this and with a bracket, and then I have the percentage there, right? And then I have the number and then a bracket with the percentage there. And then I have the total. So that would be more likely the frequent report that I want to have. So my point is that if you ask me, can tablet make these reports? Yes. Um, but I would say that it is not worth doing it. So why don't you just have a bunch of numbers and you just put that into Excel? It is way more flexible and easier to make the final report to whatever format you want to have. So I personally, I would say that it also applies to those SAS graphics, like in SAS, you can have that SG plot, you can make fancy reports using very complicated statements. But why don't you simply export these data into an Excel and do it there? It will be way more easier, right? So that would be my opinion for you to think about. Whoa, so we can do this for tablet to report to that. So the next one is that I'm going to show you how to make a frequency report. Well, I have a strong word. Maybe I should delete that. I said the best solution. Uh, but anyway, so So my point is that we can use the proc freak, right? So that proc freak can help us make a report of the frequency with percentage, and then I can output that result into a data set. And by the way, I specify the option of n levels to say that just go into the lowest level of the cell, so you don't have to report each level. So Um, so what does that mean? That means that if you don't have that A levels, so the result will be like first that overall how many patients, and by age group, 1, 2, 3, 4, each group how many patients. By cancer group 1 or 0, how many patients. And then finally by the combination of these two, in age group 1, cancer is 1, how many patients? Age group 1, cancer is 0, how many patients? So it's going to do all the levels, all right? So this n levels tells the SAS programs to say just to go to the details level, because I'm not interested in knowing the total number, the number only by cancer, yes or no. I want to have those specific groups, like in age group 1, cancer is 1, how many patients? And still age group 1, cancer 0, how many patients? That's why I need this n levels. So the result of that will be like this. This is in the result area. You will see this table. And also, you can have a data set like this. So it is going to go through all the age groups and all different cancer status. Then you're going to have the count of the observations and the percentage, right? So with these information, then again, we can use the proc export to output the table uh, into the Excel file. This time we're gonna have a name for it. So, and I'm gonna call it freak. Is it so? Oh, sorry. So, uh, yeah, so sorry. So I have this table, and then I'm gonna put some stamps like the current date into it, right? So I'm gonna have a stamp of the date that this report is created. And again, so for this part, I would suggest that you're going to do it in SAS using the SAS Enterprise Guide. So in that way, you're going to have the project name, you're going to have the program name. So you're going to have a very detailed stamps for these output. So later, you're going to have a lot of revision of your code, your analysis, and with the result going back to uh, your supervisor and your committee, and they're going to have new ideas. They're going to have critiques, and you have to go back and do it again. So very much likely that you are going to have multiple versions of analysis, and it is very important to keep tracking which project you are using, where is it, all right, and what program you used it, all right. So, and actually, even for these projects, these Excel files, I would strongly suggest that you put a version for it, right? And to write it down somewhere in your notebook, your secret place, make a YouTube video, whatever. Like in my case, I'm gonna make YouTube video to tell myself that on what date, using what program, I generated what Excel file and where I put it. All right, this is very important because later with a lot of versions you get it confused, totally confused. You cannot find these files. So this is very important um, for keeping tracking your results. Anyway, so we have this data set here, and then we're going to export again into that Excel file, right? And finally, because remember that earlier, because using this tablet, this fantastic tablet program, it overwrote my previous report of the means. So I have to do it again here. All right. So now in the file called the descriptives, now I have three tables. The first is the one generated by proc tablet. The second is a frequency table that I exported from SAS, right? So actually my point is that starting from here, you can you can easily make a descriptive table, which is way better than this one, right? That's my point. And the third one is the mean that we produced before, and I exported again. Okay, so that would be the part for descriptive analysis. So basically, with this skills, with the proc mean, proc freak, and well, if you really you're a fan of proc tabulate, you can use that. And also using this proc export or ODS, you can produce the reports and put that into an Excel file directly.